All right, let's talk about the big one that is causing all kinds of shit controversy all over Twitter, and I'm kind of just sick and tired of talking about the freaking backup position, backup quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Look, I know what Joe Flacco did in 2023 was awesome. It really was. Much appreciation to Joe and everything he did coming in here, being a great locker room guy, great leader, just taking the role, the bull by the horns in what he was asked to do and doing a great job with it. The dude turned the ball over a shit ton. Threw a lot of interceptions, fumbles, and at the end of the day, that ended up hurting us very badly in the wild card game. Now, it wasn't the only thing that hurt us, obviously, but it did hurt us. So what do the Browns do now? We have signed Jameis Winston to the backup quarterback role with a contract, terminology again, pay attention, worth up to $8.7 million. I have seen a lot of people saying, well, you got to be kidding. We should have paid $9 million to get Joe Flacco. I think Marcus Mariota got $10 million to be back, all this stuff. This contract, and again, this is another one where when the details come out, it's going to be very interesting to see what these incentives are that push it up to $8.7 million, because the base contract for Jameis Winston could be somewhere around 3 or 3.5, which is a great price for a very good, in my opinion, backup quarterback, a guy who has had, I think, 3 or 4 seasons in his career where he's been over 4,000 yards passing as a starter, one season where he was over 5,000. So the dude can throw yards. He throws touchdowns. He throws a lot of interceptions. So I think the mindset around this is partially Joe Flacco threw a lot of interceptions. Jameis Winston throws a lot of interceptions. So why not just sign Joe Flacco? Jameis Winston has a lot more mobility. He's a lot younger. He's a guy that, if things go well with him in Cleveland, could stay on to be a more long-term backup, which is a position we know the Browns are interested in finding a longer-term solution to. They don't want to be kicking around trying to figure out who's the backup this year, who's the backup now. That's why they drafted Dorian Thompson-Robinson last year in the draft. They were hoping he would develop and could be the long-term backup solution to Deshaun Watson while he's under contract with the Browns. That doesn't necessarily look like it's going to pan out, at least after 1 year. Now, it was just 1 year. The kid was a rookie. He had a rough go, whatever. But I think bringing in Jameis Winston is another step in that direction. And again, the mobility, the youth factor, and I just think he fits what the Browns want to do. And we have no idea what the contract conversations have even been between Joe Flacco and the Browns. Now, his agent came out and said that a contract was not offered, but that doesn't mean, what am I trying to say here? Just because a contract wasn't offered by the Browns doesn't mean that conversations didn't take place. The Browns may have very, very easily walked away from a conversation with Joe Flacco and his agent and said, Joe's looking for too much money. Maybe Joe Flacco said, look, I would still like an opportunity to come in here and compete for that starting job. That's not crazy because of what he did and what he's already said this offseason about looking for an opportunity, seeing what the free agent market, the options are for him. He has talked about these things. So I don't think that being relegated to a strict backup role, which the QB2 position in Cleveland is a strict backup role, I don't know if that's necessarily what he has in mind still. And while he said, I love Cleveland, I would love to be back there, does not mean that conversations didn't include, and I'm speculating, of course, so this, and again, maybe none of this happened, but there's got to be more than just petty reasons why the Browns would not bring back Joe Flacco. And I've seen a lot of people saying online, and I hate this so much, and I know it's probably not a ton of you guys saying this stuff, but I'm still going to address it. They're saying the Browns don't want a quarterback controversy. They don't want Deshaun Watson looking over his shoulder. Deshaun Watson didn't want Joe Flacco, and that's why they signed Jameis Winston. Guys, these are professional athletes. Deshaun Watson has the contract and the commitment, the trade capital. The dude is the starting quarterback. There is nothing he is worried about. There is no performance on the field that he's afraid of having, that he's like, man, I might lose my job. He's not losing his job. He is the starting quarterback. Win or lose, whatever it looks like, he is the starter. And I don't think Deshaun Watson has a problem being competitive. He has been a competitor his entire career, high school, college, pro. The guy's a competitor, and we saw the relationship between Deshaun Watson and Joe Flacco during the stretch run last year where Joe Flacco was lighting it up. Deshaun Watson was having a ton of fun with him on the sideline. These two were always together when Deshaun was on the sideline, and when the team let him be on the sideline, I should say. And this relationship was good. You could just tell it was a good relationship, and my honest opinion would be the Browns felt like it was going to be too costly. Joe Flacco, I mean, come on, the guy's almost 40 years old. He just came off a very impressive stretch. He's probably looking to capitalize. Let me just get one more decent contract before I hang up these cleats for good. And it's just not what the Browns are going to do. So don't look at the $8.7 million to Jameis Winston and think, wow, we probably could have had Joe for that or a little more. Jameis Winston's not going to make $8.7 million unless all the incentives get hit, which if the incentives get hit, then that means we have a very cheap starting quarterback, because God forbid, that means something terrible happened again to Deshaun. So as long as Deshaun Watson's on the field playing football, Jameis Winston is the backup. It doesn't matter who's the backup, and he's not making $8.7 million because his incentives will not be hit. So that's the situation with Jameis Winston. I don't think it's a terrible signing. I think at the end of the day, it's the backup quarterback role. And just like with last season, the Browns, if we're at any point in the season having to worry about who's playing quarterback, then that just means things got derailed yet again. And we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But as of right now, we know who the starter is, and that's really, at the end of the day, all that matters.